Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at a piece by the digital illustrator Salem. And in this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about this harmonious symmetry here. We're going to talk about the Japanese folklore legends of Oni and Kitsune. And then we're going to talk about the profound duality of symbolic representations. Let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this piece, you're met with this kind of a dual stylized portraiture here. And these, of course, are set in the center region of the spatial composition. And it feels like we're met, face to face with the duality divine here. You're just face to face with it, kind of a confrontational visual experience, a very intimate one that really draws you in with absolute ease. We also see pretty much a perfectly symmetrical spatial composition here. If we were to reference it down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, same exact mirrored representation there on either sides. So we see this, it's split across the center axiom here. So that's very important. So both sides are symmetrical. And the result, of course, is a very harmonious visual experience. We're given this sense of balance and this sense of order, and it also hints at the divinity of the scene before us as well. And so Japanese folklore, just like all folklore, it really kind of encapsulates anything from oral tradition to literature, all the way up to theater, mythology, and higher. And so, you can see that as kind of the cultural arts, and that's incredibly important because mythology also sprouts from this as well. And so, with that in mind, there's that sense of tradition, that sense of order, that sense of kind of cultural roots that are incredibly important in all folklore. And so we see here, we have an Oni and we have the Kitsune. And these are two symbols from Japanese folklore or Japanese mythology that are incredibly important. So to start off, we have the Oni up top. And Onis are kind of demons or trolls, and they're commonly associated with evil, although all their traits cannot simply be written off as straight malevolence. So it's also important to note. And, they're also seen as kind of tricksters. There's a lot of different things that they note with these characters, and they kind of have that very dark, someone would describe like unsettling, kind of ugly appearance. And they're also used quite a bit to kind of generalize as a villain. If you're watching a theater or anything like that, if the Oni comes in play, you instantly know that they are the villain. And so we also see the Kitsune here. And the Kitsune is kind of like a magical, mythological fox, and it actually the powers of the fox increase as they age further and further. And so that's very, very cool because, they're also depicted with up to 9 tails. And the more and more tails that they have, the greater their powers are, just like as they age further and further. And we also note, the Oni and the Kitsune, they're sometimes seen with a third eye here. So we do see that within the work as well. So it's also important to note. And so both of these, of course, are kind of divine or mythological beings. One is represented more of the dark, and one is represented more of the light. So with that in mind, we see this sense of duality here. And that's very, very interesting because both define each other by their existence. So you cannot have the light without defining the dark, or the dark without defining the light, just like the good and bad in everything. And so with that in mind, we see some pretty interesting notes, themes that really remind us of the yin and yang. And we see that even quite literally, as a hint of the red is within the blue, and a hint of the blue is also within the red. So that really reminds me of the yin and yang, and also just the natural duality of our worlds. So whether it's symbolic representation or the literal definition of light and dark, day and night, anything, they really define each other by one another's existence. And so we also see here, it's actually quite interesting because what is normally associated with a very light figure is depicted with fangs, and is depicted with a kind of red face here as well. So there is this sense that they're kind of exchanging each other's powers. And so that also kind of calls back to the yin and yang as well. And we also see this natural motif sprouting from there. Of course, you have about 10 in total, 5 on either side. Also gives that sense of symmetry as well. Also reinforces that sense of mythology, that duality, and everything in between. There's also this really unique sense of layering within the work as well. Of course, the shadows are defined here, so there's almost this 3-dimensional aspect to the work at hand. It kind of pops out at you, and they're both, interwoven with each other, which also, of course, harks back to the fact that they define each other by their existence. So up top, we have the Oni, the ogre, troll, demon, anything you want to refer to it as. And then at the bottom, we have the Kitsune, which is the magical fox up to 9 tails of that kind of divine and magical being. So I hope you guys enjoyed. We talked a little bit about this really perfect symmetry here, very harmonious visual experience. We talked a little bit about Japanese folklore and mythology. We talked about the Oni, the Kitsune, and then we also talked about the profound duality of the natural world, including the yin-yang and some of the representations that remind us of the piece here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This piece, like I said, is from the the digital illustrator Salem, also known as Salemscribbles. So if you guys support her work, she has a lot of stuff on her Redbubble. So if you guys want to support her directly, that is going to be the best way to really allow her to keep creating such nice works for us. So like I said, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.